we're going to start here. Let me see. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. All right. Let's, just to kind of practice with this a little bit more. It's a little hard to tell if those are open or closed circles, so I'm going to make them what I want them to be. So how about let's make this a closed circle and this an open circle. Okay, so make that distinct mark on your paper, please, for me, on your notes. So if you notice what this is saying, it's kind of written out kind of funky. It's saying, finding information from a graph. You should be able to find a point on a graph or determine if a point is on a graph. You should be able to talk about the domain and range of the graph, and you should be able to do some evaluating. So I want to go through and talk about those things. We've done some of this already, but let's go through. So first question there, if you notice on this one, it's asking is the 0.15 on the graph? So Tegan, is the 0.15 on this graph? Nope, it is not. Good. And what about the 0.22? Ashi? Yes, it is. Good. All right. Addison, what's the domain for this graph?
Negative infinity.
Oops, careful. We've got this point down here and this point here. So there you go.
30.
1 to, okay. And at -1, is it bracket or parentheses? Bracket, good. And 3 is parentheses. Sounds good. Aiden, range? Careful. What's the lowest? There you go. Good. -7 to +9. Okay. At -7, parentheses or bracket? Bracket. And at 9, parentheses. Okay. For this next type of question, my suggestion is that you think about and you remember, you guys know that y is equal to f of x. So if you can remember that, Presley, and think about that, it's going to help you think about, like, location-wise, which number is attached to which thing. In other words, if you look at this notation, this is saying f of 1. If we're looking at that particular place, that particular number over here in that expression that we've written, that's an x, right? That's in place of an x. So what this is really saying here is when x equals 1, tell me what y is equal to. Okay? Think about what this is saying over here on this one. It's the number over here that we're given, and that's in this place, right? So that's our y. So this is saying that y is equal to 4. Tell me what the x's are. There might only be one x, there might be multiple, okay? So remembering this y equals f of x, and actually if you need to, just write it down there so that you can kind of think about, okay, is this saying x equals a number or y equals a number? And then you're finding the other thing, right? So this is saying x equals 1. So at x equals 1, what is our corresponding y value? Well, that point's already written in, so that one's pretty straightforward and easy. So that's just equal to 1. With this one, though, if y is equal to 4, guys, you've got to draw in. Oh, I'm not doing very well there. Draw in that line of y equals 4, right? We want to look at where that line is intersecting the graph. And then we have to look at what the corresponding x value is. So it looks like, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places. So that's at x is 2 2/5 for that one. Okay, does that make sense? Kind of in terms of how you're deciding which is x and which is y, I hope. Okay, let's look at another example here. We are not going to do all of these. If you feel like you want or need more practice with these, you can try them. Check your answers on my Canvas page because I have the filled out notes online so you can check them. Go quickly. Let's look at this middle one. Let's look at that one. So first question is the point 6, -1 on the graph. Ethan?
The point 6, 1 is
6, -1.
6, -1. No.
No, it is not. And then is the point -2, -2 on the graph. 6, -1?
Yeah, 6, -1.
Positive 6, -1.
Oh, none
We
of them
were
are on the
looking
graph.
at- Right?
No, yeah, thank you. Yes.
Okay. -2, -2, yeah, that one is, isn't it?
Yeah,
Right.
sorry. I'm-
-2, -2. Okay. All right, what's our domain? Abby, what's the domain for this one? Yeah, -infinity to positive infinity. And then the range on this one, Luis?
Isn't the range infinity, common infinity?
Hold on, take a look here. What's the lowest point on that graph?
-6 infinity?
There you go. Okay, so -6 to infinity. We know infinity has parentheses. What about -6? Should that be bracket or parentheses? Thank you.
Oh, sorry,
Yes,
I thought it was-
bracket. Okay, go ahead. Presley, tell me this next one. F of 2. What's the corresponding value for that? Is that saying that x is 2 or y is 2?
Oh, why? No.
What place is that? If
FX is X.
okay, so x is 2. What's the corresponding y is what that means. So what's the corresponding y at x equals 2?
-6.
-6. There you go. Good. And I'm giving you this hint on that last one. I will not normally do that, but on the homework, on these notes, I am. I'm giving you this hint that's saying y is equal to 2, and that's telling you there should be 2 solutions here. So let's draw in this line. Who's got this one? Baron, you want to give me, what are the x values for this?
4.
4 and also what?
-8.
Negative, careful.
-7.
There you go, -7.
Does it matter what you put in those?
No, does not. Good question. The order of that will not matter. Okay? All right. So a little bit more review and practice on this page if you feel like you want or need it. I think we've kind of talked through that. Let me show you the next couple of pages have some up to Georgia. Yikes. Review and practice that you can do if you need it also. This type of question would not require a graphing calculator, so that's probably likely to be something that would be on the day 1 quiz next week, right? So if you feel like you want or need more review or practice with those skills, that's a place to go. I have the answers online that you can do a little bit more practice, especially those that are a little bit more complicated, like the bottom 3 there might be good. I did that. I do want to point out one other thing here. This is a little bit more practice with what we just went over. I do want to talk a little bit about this top graph, mostly because if we are given a graph that we have where there's context, I want you to be thinking about what that context really means in this situation, because I'll probably ask you questions about that. So let's look at this specifically first. It says, find f of 5. So what is f of 5 to that? Okay, what is f of 5?
400.
Okay, yeah, it is 400. Guys, let's look at the context of this question. It's talking about T cell count and HIV infection. So it's time after the infection in years, and then the T cell count per milliliter of blood, excuse me. So F of 5, what does that really mean? Thanks, Francis.
F of X.
So the 5, yeah, so it's saying after 5 years, what's the average T cell count going to be? So after 5 years, the average T cell count would be 400 per milliliter of blood. So that's the context there. What is the value of x when f of x equals 100? So let's find the answer first. So what would the answer for that be, Colin? 9. Excuse me. So x equals 9 is our answer. What's the context there? The question is asking if the T cell count is at 100, approximately how many years after infection is that probably, right? So think about context, because it's highly probable I will either ask you to explain what the question is asking specifically, or I will ask you a question kind of using that context. Okay? All right, and then there's a couple other questions here that you could use if you wanted or needed a little bit of extra review. So, y equals 6x squared plus 7x minus 20. Hopefully I did not just make a mistake on that. Try that, take a look, plug that into your graphing calculator. I want x-intercepts and then rel max and rel min.